Welcome back to another episode of the Words from the Nerds podcast with all three of your hosts, Aiden, Ben, and Charlie. Today, we are talking about one of the best movies in the past 5 damn years. A spectacle of a film, a cinematic masterpiece, and that's Dune 2. And before we get into everything, because I'm very excited to pick y'all's brains. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. Ben, how are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing just so well. I watched Dune 2 a little bit before you guys did, and then I watched Madam Web after, which was like the worst mistake that I could have possibly made. And so I ended up watching Dune again. So I saw it twice within a week, and I'm very excited to talk about it. I know that I kind of like spewed a little bit the first time that I watched to you guys in our group chat, but there's still a lot to discuss. And just I'm sure it's going to be an interesting little conversation we're going to have here.
Mr. Charlie, my brother, how have you been, man?
I've been good. You know, I've been just trying to survive the week of Dune 2. These two have been glazing it pretty hard in our group chat, and I've kept my opinion on it pretty close to the chest for this reason, because we were going to be here. Which I'm not going to say it here yet, but you know, we'll get to it whenever we officially start talking about the movie, and I'm sure I'm going to be going first. I think we talked about that, but other than that, I'm doing good, man. It's a great week. Can't complain. I'm alive. I'm well. Nothing to complain about. You know, how are you doing today, Aiden? Huh?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Anytime we can get in here and talk about anything, I've been very excited to talk about this all week. So I'm happy we're finally in here. Dune Part 2, 2024 movie, 2 hours and 46 minutes, 94% critic score and a 95% audience score, which is kind of low, seeing all the talk that is just based on what everyone's saying about this movie, like online. I'd expect that to be like Top Gun Maverick numbers, you know, in terms of Rotten Tomatoes score, but still crazy high numbers, and 8.0 out of 10 on IMDb. Second popularity. I don't know what would be first in popularity, but 8.0 on IMDb. Actually, you know what? I pulled up the wrong Dune on IMDb. That's Dune 2021. Dune Part 2 has a 9.0 out of 10, and it's number one popularity, obviously. So pretty high praise from one of the best, if not the best, director out right now. My personal favorite director, Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah,
but without
years, bro, we get it. We
he actually, I mean, I think Arrival, Prisoners, Dune 1, Dune 2. I have Prisoners and Arrival as perfect films. I think those are nothing wrong with those movies. But I digress, because Charlie will kick us off with his thoughts and his quick little summary. No spoilers or nothing, but a quick little summary on how he felt about the movie. Charlie, take us away, brother.
Well, as aforementioned by myself, I have kept it close to the chest from these boys. They have no idea what I'm about to say about this movie. I have left little breadcrumbs as to how I've wanted them to think that I feel about it, but in actuality, I walked out of this damn movie. Let's go! Oh my god, this movie was something else, man. I mean, I won't lie. When I first walked out of it, I was lower on it than I am right now. But after thinking about it, and I've read a couple of things about it, and I've thought about it myself some more. It is. Originally I started out. It was about like a high 7 or an 8 out of 10. Now I'm at like a 9.5 out of 10. This movie is incredible. I cannot wait to watch it again. I need to go see it again. I need to set up a time to go see it again. I still have a couple of complaints, and we'll get into that later. I don't want to touch on them too much. Actually, I mean, it's my summary, so I'll talk about it a little bit. I still think there was some parts it felt a little bit slow to me. It still dragged on a tad bit, especially in the first and second act. But I mean, that's it's not nothing crazy. Truthfully, I can overlook that 1,000 times over for everything else that this movie has to offer. So I can't. I've been waiting to. I've been trying to push us to get on the podcast a bit more because I wanted to tell these guys how I feel about it, and so I finally got to. And so I honestly, if anything, I've walked out of this. Timothy Chalamet is one of my favorites now, favorite actors. Truthfully, it's absolutely insane what he did with this movie. Even I mean, truthfully, everybody on display here. Some got more screen time than others. I think obviously Florence Pugh. We know Florence Pugh is pretty good. She's going to get more time in Messiah if that ever actually comes about. Which truthfully, we know it's going to be announced here soon that it's officially greenlit. Actually, I think they might have said that the studio said that they're like actively pursuing it already, but I don't know. That's neither here nor there. Yeah, man, I love everybody in this film. Zendaya too. I'm more excited now for her movie that comes after this. I can't remember what it's called.
Is it Challengers?
Oh, that one. Yes. I'm more excited for that now, especially after this movie, and I'm excited to see what she can do in a leading role. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I can't find the words right now for everything without spoilers, I guess. Yeah. So, I'll kick it off to one of you guys.
Ben?
Sure. Charley, we knew. We just knew that you were trying to leave.
I was setting it up. I was like, oh my God, you guys are dick riding so hard. You're glazing so damn hard, bro. Like, I can't believe this.
No,
when I told Aiden, and I was like, hopefully you don't fall asleep, bro. I was like, the way I was gonna back that up, I was like, oh no, it's because he woke up early, bro. I just hope he doesn't fall asleep. That's it. That's all I'm saying. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I was up early that day too, so.
When Aiden and I first got in this call, Aiden literally said that. He's just like...
I was like, you know what?
He's faking us out. He's got to be.
I said because, honestly, you had me before my second viewing. After my second viewing, I told Ben, I was like, the only thing I could think about was, there's no way in hell Charley does not absolutely love this movie. Like, there's just no way. I was watching. I was like, bro, there's no way Charley hates. This is right up his alley. This is like, yeah. And so I was like, I feel like maybe he's going to come out here and say that he loves it. I was hoping you would. I was really hoping you would.
Yeah.
I will. I guess, sorry, before I fully transition, I will talk about later on why I was more at like the 8 out of 10 or high 7 when we get later into this. But for now, Ben, take it away.
Yeah, I will stay very general for my general thoughts because I feel like we kind of need to dive into more specifics to like further explore just like really what I think. But like, to put it bluntly, I think this will go down as just like one of my favorite movies of all time, truthfully. Like, upon first viewing and second viewing, I really thought like second viewing I would feel the drag because I didn't feel it the first time, and I thought that would kind of change after I'd already seen the movie. I don't know what it is that they injected into this film, but I feel like they crafted these characters in this world so perfectly that I could just sit there for hours. Like, even when it ended, I was like, I just want to stay here and just continue to watch this world. Like, that's how immersed I was in it. And there's not a ton of franchises that I can point to where I'm just like, yeah, I could just turn on that movie and just like pick it up and watch it. Like, to me, I related it to the feeling that I get like with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's like, that's the special feeling was reflected here. And that's not something that happens very often, like at all. And truthfully, I cannot find anything that I dislike about the movie, even upon 2 viewings. I think it only just like solidified how much I loved it. I loved every single thing about it. I literally have no complaints at all.
Yeah, I love that I was able to finally feel probably like a fraction of how Ben felt about the Lord of the Rings movies, because he knows that I shit on those movies to him a lot. I've never seen them, but I just love to shit on them because he likes them. But yeah, I'm glad I can finally feel what that must have felt like. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw them in theaters, Ben. Probably not. You were probably really young. But I mean, just to see this in theaters was Absolutely. I mean, I didn't even get to see it in like the definitive experience because I don't have any IMAX theaters near me, which I really that sucks. I really hate that. But truthfully, it was amazing. The sound.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I heard it like before I went to see it. People were describing it as like, think of the Empire Strikes Back or the Two Towers of this generation, and I'm like, what are they even saying? Like, is this like, how is that possible? But truthfully, it is that, in my opinion. I really do think it does get to that level.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with everything both of y'all have said. Even down to like maybe the kind of the complaints, which aren't even, they don't really even hold a lot of water. I first viewing, I was like, okay, like, there's some setup, and it's not as bad as it was in the first Dune movie. For some reason, in this time around, they found a way to make it so compelling to where it didn't even fucking matter. And so I'm just along for the ride in the first two acts, and there's something to love in every single scene, in every single moment, even in those slower moments, like when they finally get to the little settlement so that they can put Jamis's water back into the temple. Yes, it's a little bit slower, and the movie does slow down a bit, but then you have moments like Paul Atreides being like, yeah, Jessica being like, your father didn't believe in revenge, and he's like, well, I do. Like, just little moments like that, and setting up the Reverend Mother, and just the way the story flows, it does. You don't feel like there's a lot of slow moments because there's something big happening, whether it's little or whether it's literally a huge spot in the war or like a huge moment in the war, getting us to the end of the movie. So even though I do have some kind of like, small things, those were all fixed by my second viewing to where I was like, oh yeah, I genuinely don't see anything that I don't like in this movie. And so after my second viewing, I was even higher on it, and I thought even more good about it. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, there's no doubt about it. It is a absolute masterpiece, a modern day classic, and I'm out of words. I still haven't been able to wrap my brain around how to explain how much I like this movie, and just the absolute ride that it takes you on every single time. I mean, I felt like I was on a roller coaster watching, Paul Atreides ride the worm, and it's just moments like that it just felt like a spectacle. It didn't even feel like watching a movie. It just felt like being fully immersed in this story and on this planet. And that's a really hard thing to do nowadays. And so absolute 10 out of 10. Yeah, I loved it so much.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree with you guys, and I think from this point on, we're probably going to take off the veil of spoiler-free discussion, just to dive deeper into our thoughts and kind of back them up a little bit better with specific key details from the movie. So, if you have not seen the movie for whatever reason, get your ass to a theater. Do it right now. Do yourself a favor and do everybody else a favor by giving them money. Because they need about 500 million to break even. All right, let's get them there. But
do they?
Yeah, they said that Discussing Film posted that today or yesterday or something, that they need 500 million to break even.
Because I thought I saw somewhere that they don't have, I guess it's $190 million budget. I expected it to be higher than that, to be honest. But
yeah, I've seen some discussion about that as well. There's some arguments about like how Marvel movies are more expensive than that, and they look more shitty, a lot more garbage looking than this movie. Which I agree. I think it's ridiculous that that Marvel is pushing out that kind of quality for around 300 million budget films and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And you look at everything that this movie was able to do, not only just CGI wise for the little parts that there are, but cinematography wise, like, oh my God, so many shots in this film just are awe-striking and awe-inspiring. But yeah, they need 500 million apparently to break even. I don't know, because I don't know if the $190 million budget is including the marketing campaign. I could be wrong, but that might be why, but I don't know how much marketing would cost for that to. I'm sure there's some other cost stuff behind the scenes that is why they need 500 million to break even. But first, I wanted to jump into, for me specifically, why I walked out and wasn't that high on it.
Mhm.
When I walked out of the movie, I initially said in the group chat, that certainly was something. I didn't actually mean it like that. But I was saying that to try to like plant the seeds for you guys. But I had specific issues with like Paul and his seemingly immediate transition to go against what he had been discussing the entire movie up to that point, right before he goes to the South. But since then, I have discussed with Will, who gave the movie a 10 out of 10. And he has helped me understand a bit more, because my issue was like Paul, the entire movie is telling us how he doesn't want to go to the South because so many people are going to die because he goes to the South. And then I understand that there were reasons that he had to go to the South, but I just didn't understand why why he wants to start this war up all of a sudden after drinking the sandworm pee or whatever.
Yep.
I guess we'll just call it the blue. Well, I'll call it the blue juice.
The water of life.
Water of life. Yes. Damn, I need to watch this again. But
Yeah.
like I understand the water of life. I fully understand the concept of it, but it was hard for me to initially buy in to him drinking this water. And then we're just supposed to accept that now he's totally fine with billions of people dying, when he an hour earlier was telling us he didn't want to go so bad that he was willing to stay behind while literally every last Fremen, even Chani, was going to go to the South without him. He was totally fine with that. But then drinking this water of life just because he can see the future, all of a sudden he's fine with all these people dying. But I discussed with Will a bit, and that vision that he has of Jameis right before he leaves, and Jameis tells him like sometimes you need to sit atop a hill or something like that and watch your enemies, or he says something like that. And that is essentially him saying like you need to drink this water, because his mom implanted the idea of him drinking the water of life earlier in the film. And Jameis is essentially telling him you need to do this, because this is going to give you the advantage that you need for to come out on top of this, especially after having just lost the Fremen what do you say, the outpost, safe house or whatever in the north, temple in the north. So they're desperate to make another move. Paul is probably desperate to make another move and find out the correct way to make a move after such a heavy loss. And so I understand his reason for taking it, and I still do have some questions which I will bring up later because I want to hear your guys' take on them. But that was initially my struggle with it. Is just like, I get that his visions are more clear now and he can see better now, but that still doesn't. Why does his entire character change? You know, and I get that I'm supposed to understand that in these visions he probably also sees his family dying and his friends dying, Chani dying, anybody he loves dying, and this is just the way he has to. He talks about the path through that he has to make in order for this to work, and I'm sure that's the way that all of his friends don't die. But now he's just I guess maybe this is one of my questions. Like I still have issue with. He's just okay with all of these other people dying as long as his family gets to live. Because I didn't quite get that vibe from him early on in the movie. Like he wanted his family to survive as well, but he didn't want anybody to die. Like he was very much against all of this death in general. And now he's okay with it because like he knows his family is going to survive, which I can get past that. Okay. But it's just, I don't know. It just seems like a weak turnaround to me, but I'd like to hear what you guys think about it, because I'm willing to change my mind.
Well,
I'm open.
I don't know. Ben would probably have better answers to me than me, but there's just some moments I was reading through my notes while you were talking, because I was wondering if I had jotted anything down that could maybe pertain to the conversation. So I don't know if these will even answer your question, but there was a moment I picked up on the second time around after the attack on their temple, where they just completely obliterate it, and they wake up Paul, Chani, and all them out of their sleep, and Paul's sitting there and he's contemplating, going to the south, staying up north, and he says, "I didn't see it coming." And he says that to Gurney Halleck after everything happens, and Gurney Halleck's trying to comfort him, but I think that moment right there where he's like, I didn't see it coming. I'm supposed to see this coming. Like, this is, if I'm supposed to be this prophecy, if I'm supposed to free these people, get revenge for my dad, like, I'm supposed to be better than this. I'm supposed to see things like this coming. But the fact that I didn't, maybe I do have to go drink this juice. Maybe I do have to change what I thought I was just going to have to do. Maybe people do have to die. And so I think that moment right there really was like that moment for me, at least on my second time around. And then when him and Gurney Halleck are talking, when they're moving through the canyons and stuff, and he says, he tells him, he says, millions of corpses all throughout the galaxy because of me. And he says, because you lose control. And he's like, because I gain it. And that moment right there was just, oh, it was so good. And there's so much moments like that that just gave me chills, just pure conversation. And so they're definitely planting the seeds for Paul Atreides' eventual, Anakin type story, which I know Star Wars was inspired by Dune, blah, blah, blah. But, this story of Paul Atreides' rise and fall, and whatever you want to call it. But that moment right there where he says, I didn't see it coming, could maybe be a part of an answer for a quick turnaround. But Ben, if you have anything, that please feel free.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a base explanation that, like, you could just learn to accept, which is obviously the drinking of the water of life changes you as a person and your motives and even your attitude. Like, even just looking at how it affected his mother, like in the first part of the film, and obviously she changed a lot. But to kind of go, like, I think a step further and kind of just deeper into it, the whole movie is about how Paul Atreides wants to learn the way of the Fremen and wants to be one with them and wants to help them, and also in part partner with them to seek revenge for House Atreides, for his father, etc., etc. And like, the whole movie is kind of him learning their ways. And I feel like as time goes on, he is starting to become more okay with kind of the death and destruction of those that he wishes to take revenge on, which, I mean, is like, there's a whole section of the movie where they're basically just taking down ships and killing a bunch of people. And so I think, like, when you combine that, like, building up and then the water of life, ultimately what I think is like a weird perspective to have, but like, by the end of the movie, the Fremen still think that Paul is a hero. They still think he's the Messiah. It's only like, as an audience and, from like Chani's perspective, that we can see kind of the villainous tendencies of Paul. But really, if you're Fremen and Paul Atreides comes along and says, hey, I want to partner with you guys. I want to take down these people, and I want to seek revenge for House Atreides. And also, he's also the Messiah, literally. Like, when you combine that, I feel like it's kind of a different perspective, because to them, Paul isn't a bad guy, and he's really just like furthering his commitment to them, to learn their ways, to partner with them, to lead them to the promised land. And like, part of the acceptance throughout the movie, I think, is like him understanding that sometimes death and destruction are necessary things in the path to get to where he wants to go. That's like the best way that I could explain it, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. That was part of the reason what also made me change my score I read this article about the movie that really broke it down in like a very human perspective for me. That made me enjoy it immensely more. The entire movie. This is touching on like what helped me change my mind. With the specific question that I just asked you guys as well. The entire movie, Paul is telling them that he does not want to be their Lisan al-Gaib. He does not want to be that for them. He just wants to become from, and he wants to be equal to them. And he so much so that he even like yells at his mother, who's trying to spread his legend throughout all of the Fremen people. But throughout the movie, almost every single person is pushing him to become that. There's Stilgar who keeps every time he does anything is as written. There's the Gurney to a certain extent is pushing him to, maybe for selfish reasons, to get payback against the Baron and his nephews, or his nephew rather, just one. And then his mother is pushing him there. I think the only person that isn't pushing him throughout the movie is Chani. Chani is actively, so much to the point where she tells him, I will love you as long as you stay true to yourself. And I think that's why she's angry with him at the end of the movie. And this article also said that and I agreed with, because I initially, when I walked out of the movie, I was I was pissed at Paul, and I didn't understand. Like, I was like, why are people glazing? Because I went on Twitter, people were glazing him so hard. I was like, what is happening right now? Like, but the article said, like, you're supposed to be more in line with how Chani's feeling realistically. Mm-hmm. Like, you feel betrayed, because throughout this entire movie, that's how he was feeling. He didn't want this power. And then the article likened it to like when you're a kid and you're growing up, you want to be an astronaut. You want to be whatever crazy thing you can think of. You have this great grand ideas of what you want to be. But as you get older, multiple different facets of life start pushing you in different directions, pushing you in the way that you are, quote unquote, supposed to be going, whatever fate has in store for you. And sometimes that's what you envisioned, and sometimes it isn't. And in Paul's example, or in Paul's instance, it is not. And he didn't want to do it, but he realized that he had to do it. And part of what helped him realize he had to do it was, like I mentioned before, his vision with Jameis, and having to go and take the water of life and see that vision forward, that path forward. Also, I'm just thinking of it right now because I don't want to forget it. But Anya Taylor-Joy popping up, I didn't expect that at all.
I popped. That was crazy. In the theater. I popped.
I was like, what the hell? That's so cool.
Hell yeah. That's his sister too? Like, oh, hell yeah, bro.
But yeah, and I loved how the article put that. And it made me like, I know it sounds dumb, like I needed to break it down into dumb real life instances in order to help me like understand it a bit better, but putting it in that context, I think makes it a lot more tragic and beautiful. And I think that's the kind of, when people, as Aiden mentioned, bring up the comparison between this and Star Wars, even though, as Aiden also mentioned, Star Wars is kind of an offbeat of this because this came first. When people bring up those comparisons, that's what I like to think of as the comparison, because Anakin's story is a lot more like his choice. He choose, like I get that, like there's and I'm not a Star Wars guy, so you guys can chime in whenever, but it's more his choice in the fact that he's angry with the Jedi Council for not making him a knight or a master or whatever. He's angry with Obi-Wan for not sticking up for him, and he has someone whispering in his ear about the way that he wants him to go, whether that's his destiny or not. I know there's the chosen one in Star Wars and whatnot, but Anakin chooses to go down this dark path, and I like that Paul is sort of forced. Paul is forced, and he has embraced it now, but that's not what he wanted to do. And there's even little signs of like him still not exactly wanting to do it right before he tells Princess whatever Florence Pugh's character, Irulan, yeah. Mm-hmm. Right before he tells her that I'm gonna take your hand in marriage, he tells Chani again, I will love you till I can no longer breathe, or whatever he says. And so I think those are like the little parts of him that still, like, I really don't want to do this, but I have to do this, and I still love you. But Chani, like she said earlier, like, he's not true to himself anymore. This isn't, and that's also what I like too, is like, this clearly isn't true to Paul. This is like what he has to do. I know I keep saying it, but this is what he has to do. And Chani knows it's not true to Paul, and that's why she's so angry, and that's why she leaves. And so I'm so excited. I want Messiah so bad. I need to see what happens. I am so fully invested now, and I'm in awe. Truthfully, it's the craftsmanship here is fucking insane, man. Oh,
they're making Messiah. Like, that's.
I mean, this movie's gonna make. No. I didn't even know that Dune was. Which, I mean, I'm not gonna read Messiah. I'm not gonna read the books until Messiah comes out, or until the story, whatever story they're telling, is finished. But I had no idea that Dune was a story about Paul Atreides, coming up to power, and then having kind of that Anakin Skywalker, Aaron Yeager type story. I had no idea. So after watching the first Dune, and then seeing this, like, literally the day after, seeing it kind of all as one movie, I mean, that rise and fall, and the way that Timothée Chalamet plays Paul Atreides, and that when it all comes to its peak, when he stands in that room and he says, "Nobody in here can stand up to me. I'm not going to kill this dude. Even if it's part of the rules, I'm not killing one of our best because y'all are going to listen to me because I'm the best out of y'all." Like, come on, dude. And so in that moment, I'm so in awe and enamored with Paul Atreides. But deep down in my heart, I know that I shouldn't be. And I know that the path he's going on is not going to go anywhere pretty, and is not going to lead anywhere pretty. But going into this, not even knowing that this was, one of those types of stories, or that this was a revenge story or a fall from grace story, just made my experience so much better. And just so I don't forget to mention it later, but Charlie, you had brought up that scene of him telling Chani, "I will love you until I lose my breath," or whatever. When everyone kneels after he defeats Fade Rotha, everyone kneels. Princess Irulan's standing there. He's standing looking at her, and Chani is the only one. So them three are the only ones still on their feet. And it's shot from behind all of them. So Paul's looking at her and Chani's behind him, and it's just them three. And the music is just hitting. Bro, that point was whenever I was like, yeah, this might be my favorite movie of all time. Like, after my second watch, I was like, holy, this is just cementing it. Like, this is just cementing it. And so, that moment right there, and just going into this movie completely blind, and witnessing the rise of Paul Atreides and the villain that he's inevitably in, and
you
the
said
villain that
right the
he's
second
going
time.
to become.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. The villain that he will become, and the fall from grace. I mean, it was just an absolute masterpiece.
I do want to touch on kind of like the books versus movies, because like I didn't know exactly, because I haven't read the books, like how the story falls and whatnot. So my understanding is that these first two movies cover the first book of the 6-book total series that there is. And people kind of view the books in like separate trilogies, basically. Like the first 3 and the second 3, they kind of separate them. And so book 2 is Dune Messiah, which would be covered in a single film, which Denis, I'm pretty sure, said he has like a script basically done for, and like he would want to spend a decent amount of time, like another couple years, but he's like fully willing and wanting to continue the story. But then Denis said that he would want to be done directing these movies after that, just because after that it kind of like shifts into a really different storyline. Dune Messiah really like kind of caps off this current storyline, and then I think the third book is like Children of Dune, with like Paul's children, and then like the other 3 books are like thousands of years in the future and would be really hard to adapt well to movies. So it's very possible that Dune Messiah is the last Dune film that we get.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they have to trust another director enough to kind of hand them what's been built. But
Which we've seen how that goes.
Yeah.
We've seen the
But-
repercussions of
But I
that
think like
already.
realistically, like you can't. I don't even think you could take the first Dune movie and give it to a different director, and that they would make Dune 2 as well as Denis would. He knows the characters, the actors, the world. Like it's his bread and butter at this point. Like he should do it again. And I think that's not the case going from Dune Messiah to a potential Children of Dune, because then you need a whole new cast of characters, new settings, set in a slightly different, like there are differences that like you don't necessarily need Denis to do it. It's just that like you still have to carry on the legacy of what Denis has built, and that's like a really hard task to do.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think
I'm sorry, sir.
I agree. I think, I mean, and it might be a stretch to say, but I truly, as of right now, I think that as long as Denis is attached to these movies, that they will be good, and they will be at least decent. But I agree that the perspective of like Children of Dune, even though it is focused on like Paul's children, that's still like an entirely different track to go down. It's more of like what's left behind after what happened with Paul in Dune Messiah. So that would be a bit more of a stretch to take on. I could see Warner Brothers trying to continue it after Denis walks away. Unfortunately, I definitely could see them thinking that this is a money train and they want to keep it chugging, or chugging, excuse me. And so I mean, obviously we'll see what the future holds, but truthfully, I mean, I'm all in for Messiah, obviously, but and I would give the other films a try that I'm sure will inevitably be made. And I also saw somebody say that other movie studios are probably looking to whatever weird sci-fi books they can find right now and trying to make those into a big franchise too. But
there's one book that Brandon told me about. He actually gave it to me to read, but I never got around to it. That he said could like, I think he said something about HBO was trying to acquire it, and I can't remember the name of it, but I'll try and remember and I'll try and bring more information next time. But he said apparently like if that ever gets made into like a TV show or a movie, that will be like, that it has potential to be like the best thing ever in sci-fi. And so I'm sure there's a lot of cool material out there that they can just spew some really cool stuff off of. But I mean, I'm like Charlie said, I'm fully bought in to Dune. I'm fully bought. I just noticed there's a cat chilling behind you. It came into
Yeah,
focus for a little bit.
he's keying into the background. Yeah.
I'm fully bought in, bro. Like I have no idea where this story can go. I'm trying so hard to just stay away from spoilers, but like I said, I could have sat in that theater and watched 2 more Dune movies if they wanted to. Like, yeah, I'm fully bought in, and I'm excited to see where the character of Paul Atreides go. And I saw someone say that this movie doesn't work if Timothée Chalamet isn't Paul Atreides, and I think even Denis even said like he wasn't going to do Dune unless Timothée Chalamet was Paul Atreides, and it's like, damn, after that one scene, dude, that I have not been able to stop thinking about how powerful that was. Like my second time around, I made sure to like pay more attention and to kind of pick up on like the score and pick up on like little themes and whatever, just like the theater shaking around me and what moments that they start shaking around me. And just him walking up to all of the people, that crowd of people, walking through them up to the stage. I mean, that is one scene I haven't been able to stop thinking about. That and the 3 worms showing up to the battlefield. I mean, how did he get away with making this fucking movie, dude? Like those are questions I'm still asking myself.
I have potentially a hot take here about like the scene that you're talking about with Paul Atreides. Obviously, that's an amazing scene where he's kind of like stepping into like, yeah, I'm that guy. Like, listen up, basically. But I think upon my second viewing, I actually liked another like similar scene more than that. And it's kind of like the whole ending sequence. And like there's a couple parts to it. Like when he tells, I don't know what like the elder Bene Gesserit lady's name is.
I don't either.
But the parallel with the first movie, when he yells silence to her and uses the voice to her, which she did on him in the first movie when he put his hand in the box, like the parallel from him being there to now this moment to then have the audacity to use the voice on her. And then, of course, like, you know, the way that he was talking to the Duke, the fight thereafter, and then like walking up to him and like, you know, kiss the ring and the stomp, bro. Like that whole sequence to me, like, I think I almost appreciated more than like, you know, him going up to the crowd. Like they're both phenomenal, but like for different reasons. But they were both so good.
And it's so beautifully shot and like lit in that room. Like, where were they? Where were they in that setting? Where they weren't on the ship, right? The Emperor's ship. I don't know where they were. I think I might. Oh, it was the background earlier, but
I thought.
Or it's our background right now.
Was it in Arakeen? I don't know.
The city might have been. That would make more sense. Yeah.
It's just so gorgeous, and you know, just the way it's shot and the colors that are going on in that room. I think one moment for me on my second time around that literally brought me to tears was the moment I just explained, where he kisses the ring and Stilgar says Lisan al-Gaib, and everyone like kneels immediately. And it's funny, but everyone kneels except for those three. And it's like, it's kind of a way to bleed into the next movie. Like, hey, these are our three big players. You know, this is what these entire two movies have been about. You know, Chani and Paul. Literally, I think someone said, if you take Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 as one big movie, it starts and ends with Chani. And so to have them three be the only ones standing up, and it's really cool because Paul looks at the princess, he looks back at Chani, and he looks down, and when he goes to look back up at her, that's whenever Gurney Halleck's like, hey, the house has denied your request, and that's when the holy war starts. And it's crazy how it's just one look at her, one look at Chani, looking down, look back up, and that's Messiah. That's where we start to get like our big holy war, everything that he's been envisioning, everything he saw that would happen if he went down this path that he ended up going on anyways, in one look has started, and our boots are on the ground. And so I think that moment right there for me literally brought me to tears, because one, I was like in awe at just how much story they were able to tell with literally just looks and with just three characters not saying a thing, and just the aftermath of everything with his fight with Fade Rotha, that moment that Ben just explained, and you know, coming to the end of the movie. I didn't want it to end, so that's another reason I was crying. But just that moment right there is I go back and forth. I mean, there's so much moments that are really good, but that one's first, if not a close second, for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought up that what the great houses and their decision there, because that was another question that I have for you guys. Slight issue I had, another very slight issue I had with the movie, and I feel like there's lots of different ways that this one could be explained, so I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. But with that moment, with the houses saying they do not accept his ascension to the emperor role, why? You know, because I like before that we're taught by the emperor that, or sorry, earlier in the movie we're taught by that Leto was a very respected and loved, house leader amongst the other houses. He was very liked, very popular, so much so that the emperor had to assist in offing him in the first movie. And so with Paul mentioning that, hey, maybe they'd like to hear my side of the story, and maybe they would maybe side with me over you, Mr. Emperor guy. Why then do they say no to his ascension after all of that? Why is that? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, Leto was so popular, they find out Leto was killed by the Emperor. That should be right there. The Great House should just, in my mind anyway, it should be like, oh, what the hell? We loved Leto. Fuck you, Emperor guy. Well, yeah, Leto's son can be the new you, and he can marry your daughter. We don't care about you, So then why do they say no? Is my thing. What's your guys' take?
Yeah. To me, I gotta explain this well because it makes sense in my head. I'm just trying to lay it out. Like, so obviously in the first film, when Leto is killed off, and like that was, we know now that it was, well, I guess we knew that, but like it was more directly and clearly stated that the Emperor had a direct hand in that happening, which, like, from the perspective of House Atreides, goes to show that, like, not only can the Emperor not be trusted, but also everybody wants to be on the good side of the Emperor because, I mean, you want to find favor in him and he'll assign you to do good things and you'll get rewarded. And in some cases, people want that to maybe become the next Emperor, like the replacement to the Emperor. So you always want to be on the Emperor's good side. And so when Leto is killed off, if I was one of the other houses and I hear that, oh, this leader we respect is killed off, and now his son has ascended to power and has defeated the Emperor after, even if we liked Leto, we were complacent in all of the Emperor's wrongdoings. I'm thinking, well, shoot, like, I'm on the chopping block. Like, especially since Paul specifically made a threat to them. Like, part of it was not just like, hey, I'm, taking down the Emperor. Part of it was also like, no, I'm in power now. You also have to listen to me.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just a, hey, I killed the Emperor. Like, do you guys like that I killed the Emperor? It's like, no, there's more to it than that. And so, like, yeah, I understand why the houses would be like, dang, I don't really know if we can side with this. Like, clearly he is a threat. He took down the Emperor. And yeah, I mean, I can understand why they wouldn't be willing to accept that.
Yeah. Earlier in the movie, they again, I don't know what her name specifically is, but is that Kathy Bates that plays her? I thought it was, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I want to say now that I pulled this up, but you know what? Maybe not. If not, it's someone that looks a lot like Kathy Bates. I guess it isn't. She mentioned something about, I forget who asks her. Maybe it's the princess. Maybe it's Florence Pugh's character. But she says something like, well, basically, why did y'all do what y'all did to the House Atreides? Why did y'all wipe them out? And they're like, well, House Atreides is, they're really. I'm gonna butcher the way she said it or what she exactly said, but basically was like, oh, they're fine people, but they are sporadic and they do have they have a chance to get out of line and wild out a little bit. So even though it could be looked at a certain way, I just did what it had to be done, and I don't feel bad for it. I don't apologize for it. So I wonder if maybe the houses kind of feel the same way. Again, I'm not sure at all. I haven't read the books. I mean, I'm just going off of what I've seen in the past 4-ish hours of Dune cinema. Maybe they feel that type of way also, and maybe they also were like, hey, yeah, we're not super opposed to the idea of you killing off the Atreides, but we're just gonna turn a blind eye. So then whenever they hear that, yeah, one of the Atreides did survive, they're leading an army of Fremen and they're about to kill the Emperor and take his daughter, like, they'd be like, all right, we should probably and now he's making threats to them. It's like, all right, no, we're turning this around, which I mean could also go hand to hand with his whole journey for revenge being the cause of the Holy War. Just all of those pieces lining up. Maybe that's why, but again, I'm not too sure.
Okay. Yeah, I think I think I like those answers. You know, just a little bit. I mean, they're all right. Nothing crazy. But speaking of the great houses, last question. I think this is the last question I can think of that I have for you guys. Why? Okay, I guess I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. I'll try it like this first. Why was it so important that Paul is Harkonnen instead of Atreides? Like, why was that such a big reveal thing? I just felt like that was nonsensical. It didn't hold. Like, I know he says the line, "We need to be like Harkonnens in order to win this," but why? You know what to do. You know, apparently, you right in that same scene, he says he knows what he needs to do, but why does that mean you have to be Harkonnen? You could just you could just kill people. I don't know. Why does that mean you have to embrace your true heritage? Which I just don't understand. More than anything, I just don't understand why was that I mean, I know it was in the book, but I just don't understand what service does that serve in the story. I guess it doesn't seem like it adds very much to it. Like, oh wow, he's Harkonnen. It didn't seem like it did much.
Because I freaked out. I actually freaked out at that moment.
It was. I mean, it was a shock for sure.
Because here, everything that the Baron did, just the Baron being an absolute savage. And here's another thing of like Paul's downfall and him denying his prophecy and then coming to accept it after drinking the water and seeing that he has Harkonnen in him. His grandfather killed his dad. These Harkonnens, these savages, just absolutely obliterating the Fremen, these people that he wholeheartedly wants to just annihilate, turns out to be his bloodline. And I think maybe, and I just thought of this right now as you were saying it, when he says the only way we're going to win this and the only way that, we just have to embrace it. The only way we're going to win this is being Harkonnen, is because those Harkonnen are savage, is because those Harkonnen will kill and not think twice about it. We saw Dave Bautista's character. We saw Fade Rotha just dead. Like, we saw these moments that show that the Harkonnen do not give a fuck. They just care about their spice, and they have their one goal and their one track mind, that their one hive mind that they are all dead set on, and they will do anything to get there. Maybe the only way they win this is by embracing that Harkonnen side, going in there, stabbing the Baron right in his throat, throwing him and feeding his body to the desert, and then threatening to kill the Emperor and threatening the houses. Maybe that's the only way that you're going to win and take over and get the Harkonnen up out of here. So that's one that I just thought of right now as you were explaining it. Because I too was like, what does he mean by we're going to embrace, like, we need to be Harkonnen to win this? So that was the exact same way. I had no idea what that meant. I did think it was
initially
cool.
Yeah, sorry. Because initially I was just like, I mean, what does being Harkonnen even like entail? Because I mean, you guys have killed people. You've been killing people this whole movie. Like, and now you know the path and which specific people you need to kill and which way you need to kill them, kind of thing. Like, what does being Harkonnen? How does that change that? I guess is what my thing was. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and even like right before that, as Ben was talking about earlier, wanting to stay, well, as you also were talking about earlier, like wanting to stay north and not wanting to go south because he was scared of what might happen if he does. And a Harkonnen would have been like, F that, bro. Like, we're going south. We're killing whoever we have to kill if it starts a holy war or not. And so I think maybe that could be another thing. Like, right before that moment, he's like, oh, no, I don't know. Then he drinks the water and he's like, oh, we're Harkonnen. Maybe the only way we're going to win this is by being Harkonnen, which is not something that he would have, one, discovered, or two, followed through with if he hadn't drank the water of life. And so that just is another thing of his downfall and his Anakin storyline, his revenge storyline.
I actually, now that once you're saying it, like I actually just thought of a way that makes it like connect more with like the other question that I asked earlier. Um, need to be more Harkonnen is in the fact that like you mentioned, Harkonnens, like their regard for life is so little. Like as we saw, Fade just goes and slashes people's throats that bring him food or whatever, so he can feed them to his pets that are just people or whatever. And his uncle has killed a fair share of people. Dave Bautista smashes like 3 dudes' heads in just for talking to him weird or whatever. And I guess that would also tie into Paul's change into all of these billions of people dying, how he didn't like that before. Now he's a Harkonnen now, and he's like, okay, I'm going to need to embrace my Harkonnen heritage in order to win this the way I want to win this. So, okay, I see the vision now. I see the vision now. I'm with it.
You're seeing with blue eyes. You're seeing with blue eyes now.
You drank the water, my friend.
Yeah. Welcome.
The only thing that I'll add to that, because I think like the big picture stuff of the Harkonnen, like you guys explained it really well. The only thing that I'll add, like more small scale, is that him and his mother being Harkonnen furthers the depth of the revenge story against the Duke, which like is obvious, like we all understand that, but it is just like a further detail to like when he goes and he kills him, like the weight that it carries is a lot more because of the blood relation, the fact that, you know, he killed his father and whatnot. That just makes it a little bit different when those scenes play out.
Yeah. And
Sure.
you know, just thinking about the moments of because this is something I wanted to mention after watching it. Thinking of the moments of Dave Bautista smashing that dude's head in, right? Like the first 2 acts of the movie, maybe the first act and a half, I love how we focus so much on Paul and Chani and Paul and his time with the Fremen. And then you have some, you know, the Reverend Mother, and you have all of these moving pieces, and for like maybe a total of 5-10 minutes, we see Harkonnens. And then out of nowhere, we see Fade Rotha, and we just get a whole thing of Harkonnens. We see the Baron, we see his plans. But right before that moment, it's like 2 scenes where we cut, hey, these are what the Harkonnens are up to, and then we cut back and okay, back with Paul and Chani. All right, here's what's going on with Dave Bautista's character. Okay, back to Paul and Chani. And I absolutely loved how Denis knew when to spend time explaining something and when to spend time showing something happening or showing a certain group of people. He knew how much time to spend and where to spend it. And I absolutely loved that because it made for like such an impactful moment whenever we do meet Fade Rotha and whenever we do start, oh, we're getting a lot of time with the Harkonnens. What are they? Why are we, you know, before this, it was only 5 minutes at a time. Why now? Oh, this badass warrior that's going to come and just obliterate the Fremen. And then he does, and that's how we kick off the 3rd act where it's just all out war. So I very much appreciated how we only see them for a little bit, and granted, they're very intense, you know, scenes that we do see them. It just makes for such an impactful introduction to Fade Rotha and for such an impactful moment like the obliteration of their temple. And so I just, for some reason, I just loved the way that he decided to spread the time out in those first 2 acts.
Yeah, I agree with that. Something I also wanted to mention real quick, just a little small thing. Get him off the pod, bro. For our audio only listeners, Aiden just crushed a can with his bare hands. He is truly
Put down
something.
the Diet Coke.
He's something else. But I love, like, you can have a black and white scene in a movie, right? You can have a black and white scene in a movie, and you don't have to explain why it's black and white. It's just black and white. It can be a flashback. There's been multiple different ways to explain it in the past, and you don't have to if you don't want to. But the explanation for this in this movie, I loved so fucking much, bro. Like it's a sci-fi movie, so give it a stupid fucking reason. Even though this isn't a stupid fucking reason, this is a cool ass fucking reason. They have a black sun. Like what? That is so badass. And then you add on the fact they're like art or like paint splotch fucking fireworks look sick as hell too. Like what was that, bro? That was so damn cool,
dude.
Fuck the Harkonnens
though. Dude, it was so fire. And I brought up that picture because I wanted to talk about this moment because man, it just like and experience. I didn't want to talk too much about the whole IMAX experience because Charlie.
I do at some point for actual genuine reasons.
Yeah. Well, this is a genuine reason right here because this moment, whenever Fade Rotha gets crowned as the governor of Arrakis, the new governor of Arrakis. First of all, I love that he improvised that kiss, or like the moment where he kisses him twice because it catches you so off guard that you're like, whoa, like this is different, but that's Fade Rotha's character. Like that's just who he is. Like something as simple as like kissing his uncle, kissing the Baron could like make you feel weird inside, but it's perfect for who he is as a character. But I love how he gets crowned as the governor, and there's a GIF going around. I don't know if y'all have seen it. It's like the little meme of Austin Butler after he gets governed. He's looking at the Baron, and then he looks at the audience. He looks at the audience, and the music is just thumping, and your seat is literally shaking. It is surrounding you and shaking, and then it pulls out. And you see like that huge stage and all the audience, and the music is just going and it is hammering. It's loud. You see the scale, you see the scope of everything, and then they show the outside and they show all of their forces getting ready, and they're all lined up. They show all of their ships, and it's just such a powerful scene. And I think it's so underrated because one, it's shot beautifully. It looks gorgeous. You get the black and white showing the army setting up outside. And it just shows like, hey, this next act, Fade Rotha is going to be a pain in the ass. And he's here for a long time. And so, well, not for a long time, if you know what I mean. But, he's going to be a pain in the ass. And they set him up so perfectly in that scene. I absolutely love it. I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up at least once during this pod.
Must be nice, bro. Must be nice. Must be nice. Crazy.
I have a couple of things that I want to say just relating to what you guys just brought up. So like the black and white, obviously I thought it was sick, but there was a specific shot that I wish that they would have lingered on more. And it's the shot when Fade Rotha is like walking through the dark hall right before the Bene Gesserit like is following behind him.
Mm-hmm.
He's walking with one of those like floating lights that's like emitting like a yellow hue to it on the like, I think it's from the audience view, it's the left side of his face.
Yeah.
And then like it's like a close up of his face, but then as the fireworks are going off, it's emitting white light on the other side of his face. And I thought it was like just such a cool visual, but it was such a just tiny little shot, but like just beautifully lit.
Yeah.
And then like the kiss is really interesting, but like you said, it fits his character because like obviously it was improvised, but it is so in Fade Rotha's character to just be like, oh, you just kissed me and you're entrusting me with like this power. I'm doubling down. Like you got to know that I'm for real about this.
Yeah.
Grabs his skull and goes back in for another smooch. Like that's just so it makes sense. Like it is so his character.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Charlie. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna transition to something I wanted to mention from Twitter. So if we're done glazing, like I think we've done glazing.
I've seen people say he's the best villain since Heath Ledger's Joker. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, that's actually something I wanted to talk about too. He's
amazing.
Not enough screen time to do anything like to say anything like that. Like I don't. He was great, but
the only thing that I would give him is that like his acting performance was consistently phenomenal, I think. But yeah, as like a villain, he's not fleshed out enough to be like really in the conversation, in my opinion. But yeah, Austin Butler gave what I consider might like it's up there with Timmy's. That's all I'm gonna say. I think he did amazing.
I think people are just not used to seeing a villain just not care for human life as much as he did, which is like, I agree. It needs like I would love to see more villains just like slice her neck, boom, she's dead. Slice his neck, boom, he's dead. Like I would love to see more villains utilized like that, and I think people just aren't used to that. Um, I don't think it's used enough. And so maybe that's why maybe people are just like, oh, this is different. This is a different type of beast. He's the greatest thing since Heath Ledger's Joker. And so it's like, well, is he or is he just something fresh and new? Which he is absolutely amazing in this movie. I think he's one of the best villains in a long time. But yeah, I was just like, okay. But anyways, Charlie, you wanted to transition out.
So I don't know where you guys were for this lovely little discussion that was on Twitter with our boy Soups over here. The only thing I wanted to say about this was obviously, we have the first tweet. I guess I'll click on this one first. The last hour of Dune Part Two was unreal. Not only was Paul rising to become who he was meant to be, but it felt like Timmy was also rising to become who he was meant to be, one of the best actors of the next generation. A lot of people took that and took that as he was saying like Paul is meant to be a hero. Paul's going to be so great, which obviously those people thinking that I think are dumb. Like he didn't say anything about that. That's not the issue here. My potential issue, and it's only a potential issue, is like I'm not so convinced that this is who Paul was meant to be, only because we are told in the movie, not only this movie but in the first movie as well, the Bene Gesserit have multiple people lined up for this potential role that they want this person to play, and also the Bene Gesserit. This isn't like a real thing. If you want to talk about it like this, it's not actually a real thing. This has been a lie that the Bene Gesserit have been planted in the people of Dune and in the Fremen people for thousands and thousands of years. I don't think. And this also touches on what I was talking about earlier on in this episode. I don't think one that he even knows that this is something that he wants to do. And again, this isn't who he is as a person. Again, that it harkens back to what I talked about with Chani and how Chani knows this isn't who he is. And Chani, that's why Chani is upset with him, and that he knows that this isn't who he is with him telling Chani, like, I will love you for as long as I breathe, or whatever the hell he says. I forget the line I'm butchering. I wish I wasn't butchering the line because it's a great line, but still, he says all these things. To me, it points to the fact that we know that this is not who he's actually meant to be. And I obviously I haven't read the books. I don't know for sure. This is just my implication of this, but I think obviously everybody's saying, like, he's not saying he was meant to be a hero. But I also think that I don't think he's meant to be this evil person. This is just who the world is shaping him to be. That's not who he's meant to be. That doesn't mean that's who he's meant to be. That's just who the world has shaped him to be, because that's the path he has to go down to survive and keep his loved ones alive. That's not necessarily who he's meant to be. Lots of things can change. I haven't read Messiah, again, like I mentioned. Maybe he has a change of heart halfway through Messiah and he's like, oh my God, look at everything I've done here. Like, this is terrible. I don't know. So that's my issue with it. But I mean, you guys talk away. Tell me what you guys think.
Only thing I'll say is I mean, obviously I haven't seen Messiah either. I haven't read Messiah either, but I do see people calling Paul Atreides Space Hitler, so I can't assume that it gets any better from here on out. That's my only piece. I don't think it's hard to say because the visions are one thing of like what was Paul meant. What is this just his path? Is this just who he is meant to be? The visions, if you want to look at just the visions he's been having since the first movie, you say maybe maybe this is just his fate. But you look at just how things have played out, and as we discussed, the whole water of life and things like that. And everything with his father. Maybe this is just someone who was destined to just be a great ruler. And they even had conversations about it. He told his dad, what if this isn't what I want to do? And, Leto says, well, then you'll always be what I've just wanted you to be, my son. And I think there's even a line about, oh man, I can't remember it right now, but I was reading it earlier on Twitter. It said something about the heart never wants to lead or something like that.
Like that, I think that's like what the Emperor was saying a little bit to Paul, was like that his dad led with his heart, and like you can't successfully lead with your heart, and that's part of the reason that he helped get him killed.
Yeah, and he says his Leto was weak. Yeah. So I don't know. So there's a lot of things where if you look purely at the visions, maybe this was just his destiny. But if you look at other things like what put him down this road, it's hard. It's hard because with Anakin, it's easy to just be like, well, he was supposed to bring balance to the Force, and yeah, maybe it was a little rocky road, but he inevitably brought balance to the Force, so he is the chosen one. It just depends on. I mean, for me, it's just I'm just gonna let Messiah tell me what I should think because it is a very good topic to bring up. I'd love to hear Ben's thoughts.
Real quick, I also would like to, because you mentioned his visions, I would also like to point to like his visions from the first one. A lot of them, like one we saw come to fruition at the end of that movie, but this one we saw come to fruition, and they were both entirely different. Like his visions of Jameis being his friend and the one that leads him. Not that still came true in a certain way. I will admit, Jameis, like I mentioned before, did tell him in a vision after his death, like you need to be able to see your enemies from above or whatever. But originally he had visions of Jameis being the one to teach him all the ways of the desert and teach him how to become Fremen. Didn't end up happening. He ended up killing him as soon as he met him, pretty much. There's a vision of Paul from the first movie. You might know what I'm about to mention, of Paul fighting in this big army, this big war. We come to find out in the second one, that's actually Chani. It's shot for shot. It's Chani this time. His visions were wrong. You could chalk this up to just now his visions won't be wrong after drinking the water of life, but his visions being wrong are, in my mind, another example of how this, like, he's not necessarily who the Bene Gesserit want this person to be. I mean, they lined up Freyed Rotha to potentially take that place if Paul died, and so I think there's multiple different reasons that point to why Paul isn't meant to be this person. But I mean, I'd love to hear what Benj thinks. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start with the visions just because you just brought it up, because I noticed like the visions that we were seeing play out, but seeing it with different characters. And I'd give like two things with it. The first is that his visions were kind of unclear before, drinking the water of life. So like the actions that happened in the visions are the same. It was just unclear how it would actually play out and who it would play out with. And then I guess kind of like the next thing that I would point to with the visions being different is like, even though I'm trying to think of the way that I thought about this that actually makes sense when I put it to words, but like even just the fact that a couple of the visions are paralleled to be Chani instead of himself, or it's Chani, who's like teaching him the ways and whatnot. Like that also, at least in my opinion, like the changes that were made greatly affect the story. And so part of it is also like, while we are seeing Paul's blurry visions of the future, as an audience, like the way that we're led through those visions and how it plays out, I think like the way that there are differences within that is like really cool, because like even the scene where it's just like the action scene where it's like shot for shot the same, when we think about like where Chani is at in that scene, like when it comes to her mental state, like all of these things that have happened, and she's just like, I follow my instructions. That's where she was at that time. Like she was not happy with Paul. And so like seeing the same scenes but played out with the different characters from a story perspective makes it more interesting, which I guess is not like necessarily as much of the explanation side of things, but still just from like a crafting the story and like understanding the characters and the emotional weight of the story, I think it does tie in to that. Now, specifically this tweet, I guess, I think you explained it well, and I agree with you about like Paul's not becoming who he's meant to be, and there's kind of ways to interpret that. The only thing that I'll say is that the original tweet about comparing Paul to Timmy, I understand like what Soups is trying to say, and like I don't disagree with it, that like a better way to put it, I guess, is as Paul Atreides is developing as a character, Timothy Chalamet is developing as an actor. That's maybe a more accurate way to put it. So I agree with like what he's trying to say. I think he just like worded it in a way that, sounds the best, but I agree with you that it's maybe not the most accurate thing.
Sure. And I don't have an issue like if they, like I'm glad that he loves it. I'm not trying to. I'm just more my issue came with I thought people were taking like they were trying to correct him for the wrong thing, and so I was like, and not that I'm even like wanting to correct him. I just don't think necessarily that this is who Paul is meant to be. I think Paul doesn't love who he's becoming, and which that doesn't mean that that's not just because you don't like who you're becoming doesn't mean that that's not who you're meant to be. But I've already pointed out how I don't think that is who Paul is meant to be, and I think multiple people, they're not multiple, but Chani knows that is the truth, because she saw the true side of Paul. But I mean, obviously, if you want to take the story that way, and if that makes you love the story more, by all means. I want you to love this story because this is a great fucking story. So go ahead.
Also, one last thing, just again, something else that I'll just be remiss if I don't bring up. I love how Fade Rotha's fight with who he thought was the last Atreides, though the one that they didn't drug up, complete carbon copy of a fight that he had with Paul at the end of the movie. The only difference is when he did that knife shot to the Atreides in the arena, he got cocky and he said, "You fought well, Atreides," and got up and did his little celebration. Whereas he tried to get cocky again the second time around with Paul, and Paul turned the knife around, got him, and then that's when he says, "You fought well, Atreides." So I thought that part was really cool. It's cool that the both Atreides fights kind of mirrored each other in a way. And another thing is I saw a lot of people saying that if Paul had been born a girl, like the Bene Gesserit meant, that he would be with Fade Rotha, that they would have ruled as emperor and empress, I guess, together. Which I thought that was pretty cool. I guess that's just something more with the book, but I thought that was a cool parallel.
Yeah. Charlie, can I ask you, I have a question relating to IMAX stuff. Like, I genuinely mean it. I'm not trolling. I'm literally not trolling. I promise. I just don't want to upset you, okay?
Go ahead, man.
Something that I especially noticed my second viewing is that there is a lot of shots in this movie that are very close up on actors. And there were even times where because if you didn't know, the whole movie is shot in IMAX. So the like extended screen is the entire film. It never switches in between at all, because a lot of movies do switch in between. They're not like entirely shot on IMAX. It's usually like action scenes or whatever. And so there were some scenes where like the actor's face was taking up the entirety of the screen, to the point where if I imagined them like adding black bars at the top and bottom to be a standard format, that sometimes like it seemed like their eye would almost be like, you know, clipping in or like covered up or whatnot. So like, did you notice anything like that? Like, this is a genuine question. Like, I actually mean this.
No, not to my memory. It's been a week though, so I need to watch it again. But I don't think so. I think everybody was in frame. I don't remember anything. Like, I would have been upset if I saw someone's like top of their eyeball like covered up by the black bar. Like, I was like, all right. But no, I don't think so.
Okay, I was just curious. Like, I did notice that on my second viewing. I'm like, these close-up shots are very close. Yeah.
Charlie, are you planning on going and watching it again?
Yeah, I have a theater like in like the town that I there's technically two towns. I always argue with Ben about the town that I mostly go to see theaters in, but I live in like a smaller town that has a theater in it, and it's even like probably crappier seats and crappier screens, but I'll probably see it there just because it's cheaper. But yeah, I could take a road trip, I guess, to go see it in IMAX. But
Dude,
where's the closest IMAX?
I think like 4 or 5 hours away.
Jeez. If you had said like 2, I would have been like, brother, you gotta plan on it.
Damn, son.
Where did he go?
No, that's the thing. Like I the only time I ever really seriously thought about doing it was for Avengers Endgame. I thought about maybe going to do it, but I
Damn, 4 hour drive.
That's
crazy.
I remember my Endgame experience, and there's only like 2 things that I think IMAX really helped with. The first was just the ability to have like 200 people in the theater rather than like, 40 or 50 or whatever. But then the second thing was just like, as soon as there's like that shift into the final hour with the grand final battle after Hulk snaps, like the rest of the movie is in IMAX. It's that full screen for like the whole final battle, which like you can watch it on Disney Plus now. They have the IMAX enhanced version. I don't know if you've done that for any of the Marvel movies. But yeah, it is pretty cool, but it would have to be a very specific film that I would drive 4 or 5 hours to watch.
Yeah.
I
also want to do 40X one day. I've seen
a lot of people recording their experiences watching Dune and 40X, and like the whole thing's like shaking and literally like getting whiplash. Is the funniest thing. I think that'd be cool. All right, are we ready to get into our little section of the pod, a little fun section of the pod?
Real quick, I'm surprised. I don't think anybody mentioned this to my memory. The sandworm riding scene when Timmy gets to do it.
Oh my god.
Dude, even in a non-IMAX theater, bro, I had chills across my entire body. That was so euphoric, man. It was so damn good. Oh,
there's another scene I want to talk about. I'll just go through my notes. When Chani and Paul are trying to take down that chopper, and they finally get it to explode, and she's running, and as she's running, it just falls behind her, and it explodes, and they start running off together. And then right after that, they show them taking down the big like bug ship or whatever. Just so much moments where the scale is just fleshed out, where it's like, look how big this fucking thing is. Look how awesome this shit is. Like, I lived for those moments, dude. I love seeing that in film.
Touching on that scene as well, actually, what I really loved was the sound editing in that section. Right when they take the ship down, they keep running, right? And then it's like almost just silent. You hear nothing but their footsteps. And as soon as the exploded ship hits the ground, the music kicks in. Oh my God, dude. It was so damn good. Holy shit. Holy shit, this movie is amazing.
There are so many moments that I could point to of like sticking out as just being super cool, even within what you guys are talking about. Like when Paul like is running back to Chani because she's about to be attacked, and she just turns around and shoots the guy,
dude, and
then just says reload. Yeah, like so cold. Or like even the scene where like they first come out of the sand and then they're getting shot down, which by the way, the sound design on those guns were super sick. In the ornithopters, I don't know, like the way that it was kind of like a splat, like a shotgun, way that but it was so cool. And then they like crawl under it, like the claustrophobia that I felt like in that tiny little scene. And also like, how are they even like you could say, how are they filming this to like, 90% of this movie? But like that scene, I was just like, they're just crawling through this thing with the actors, and it feels just so real. All of it does. It's crazy.
That's something I realized watching Dune, because I hadn't watched Dune in a long time, the first one. So I rewatched it obviously for Dune 2, and because my girlfriend had never seen it before. And there was so much moments, like, correct me if I ever mess up and I say so much instead of like so many or much or many, bro, please correct me, because it drives my girlfriend crazy. And for some reason, my brain is just like, oh yeah, much is always the right way to say something. So if I ever mess up, please correct me.
I'm glad you said this now, because I've noticed it every time you've done it, but I've never said anything. I'm glad you're saying it now.
Yeah. I never noticed it either until she started being like, many, it's many. And I'm like, I swear I'm saying it right.
It's not like a huge mistake, so I just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, that's why every time I've heard it, I've always just like, it doesn't matter that much.
Well, that's embarrassing. Anyways, there were a lot of moments in the first Dune where I was like, literally, how did you make this? How did you make this? Like, and of course, this movie just steps it up a ton. But yeah, dude, the set design, the costume design, whenever they have that breathing thing, and it's like at first I was like, what are these, like bombs?
Yeah, I had no idea what it was.
And then they just get up and start chopping. Oh my god, dude, just beautiful.
Yeah.
No, you go first, Ben. You go first.
Yeah, I didn't really say anything about the worm riding scene, but like truthfully, one of the reasons why I went back and watched it again is because one of my roommates, who I went with the first time, legitimately said, I would pay money just to see that scene in IMAX again. And we ended up just watching the whole movie, but like that's how impressive it is as like a 4-minute sequence that took them, 3 months of prep work to even get like those 4 minutes. Like the first time I watched it, because I knew it was happening, because they've had it in like the advertising or whatever for like the last year basically. But legitimately, like the build up to it, I had like my hands in my sweatshirt middle pocket, and all of a sudden I was just like, what? I'm sweating. Like I'm so invested in this because it feels so real. And then just getting shaken by the incredible sound design on that scale is just it's hard. Like you can't point to many, at least I can't point to like too many scenes like that where you're just like, I need to be in a theater to witness this, and this will like stick with me. Like I don't have that as often as I wish I did. Like it still happens, of course, but that's a time that I'm just like, this is special.
Yeah.
So last thing I want to say before we move on, as great as these movies are, even the first one, at world building, fantastic job of world building. I will say something. I've been watching a podcast recently. Well, it's actually the podcast guys I always listen to, but they some of them have read the books, and this won't be spoilers for Messiah. Don't worry, Aiden. But they mention in the books why they don't use lasers or guns and stuff all the time is that when you're using if someone has a shield on and you shoot them with the laser or a gun or something, it might just be the laser, I don't know, but if you shoot them, it causes like a nuclear blast to go off, apparently. And you see that like a little bit in this movie with at the very beginning, the soldiers that are getting offed by the Fremen. One of them says, "Turn on your shields," and then the one guy's like, "No shields." And later on, with the Ornithopter, has to turn its shield off in order to shoot out of it for a couple seconds, and that's why they can't shoot it with the laser gun that they shoot the big mining drone with. And it's like, I wish that they had like expanded on that more, if that is truly the case of what happened. Like, I wish they had at least talked about that, not expanded on it, but just because if you haven't read the books, you don't know that. You don't know why these people aren't turning on their shields, or why the shield has to be turned off, or why they can't shoot the thing with the laser. You just have to kind of assume. And so, at least to my memory, because I was like Aiden, I rewatched the first one very like I think a week and a half ago, right before I watched the second one. And I don't remember anything like that being mentioned. And I just think that's a really cool detail. And I wish that was mentioned somewhere in the movies. But now that I have like that knowledge, like I think it's really cool. But just for people that don't, I think that kind of sucks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's Dune Part Two. Again, I mean, one of the best movies I've ever seen. Modern day masterpiece. A cinematic experience that will always stay with me. And Ben, you mentioned just going back and paying money for just that worm riding scene. I would pay money just for that third act. Like, just to go sit in the theater and experience that whole third act from the moment they get ambushed all the way up until the end of the movie. I think is literal perfection. And so, yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to add. But that's Dune Part 2. So if everyone else is ready, we can get into these top 5 films of the 2020s.
Yes. For everybody who doesn't know, we, for this last little part of the podcast, we have decided to, all three of us, give our top 5 rankings of every film we have seen so far in the 2020s decade so far. So we're almost halfway through this decade. Lots and lots of films have come out, lots and lots of great years of great movies, 2023 being probably one of the greater standouts, and 2024 and 2025 don't look to be slowing that down, truthfully. So I'm sure we're going to revisit this at some point on the podcast, but right now we want to give our updated, or not updated, but just our first little lists of this right now, and we'll dive into it more and more as we continue throughout more years of the 2020s. But yes, who would like to go first? Because it's not going to be me. I'll tell you that much.
I'll go first. I'll do it.
All right, let's go for it.
I'm trying to. How much talking are we doing about our ranking or about these films? Are we like going in depth, or just like give the ranking
summary?
and then?
I would say like a summary.
You give like a little summary. I was thinking of I was going to go through and explain why I had what there, but like, I was going to give my full review.
I would say liken it to like the last time when I brought up that image of like what we were most anticipated for, and like what
that works.
Yeah, I'd say like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So my number 5 from the 2020s goes to The Batman, which
nice pick. Okay.
Would actually be kind of a more recent addition to this list, because like when I first watched the movie, I watched it twice in theaters. I did really like it, but then like a year after it came out, sometime last year, I rewatched it and I had a much deeper appreciation for it. I genuinely think that it is like a very, very well crafted superhero movie. I mean, Robert Pattinson very quickly became probably my favorite Batman actor at this time. You could talk about the cinematography, the villain. I mean, just there's so many aspects of this movie that I think are just done incredibly well. But yeah, I bumped my score up the last time that I rewatched it. I think like in a hypothetical world where I hadn't have bumped this up, the film that would have replaced it would have probably been Top Gun Maverick.
So I was going to say, yeah.
That would probably be like my next on the list that I think I would have had above it prior to my last rewatch.
I need to revisit it. I definitely need to revisit The Batman.
Yeah. Honestly, 3 and 4, I went back and forth on a lot. and I just have to kind of trust my gut with this one. So in fourth place, I'm going Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, everybody who's seen the movie just knows that they've done an absolutely incredible job with both of these films. Animation, absolutely amazing and so unique. I think that Warner Brothers is absolutely fumbling that they're not pursuing doing a Batman Beyond film when they literally were like presented it like, hey, we'd be willing to do this. Like, would you let us? They're like, nah. It's like, bro, that's insane. Which we did an episode on Across.
That's insane.
It is insane. It is. I mean, like, I don't understand how you can say no to that. But yeah, we did an episode on Across the Spider-Verse, just like what they've done with the character of Miles Morales and how like everything from the stakes, from the fan service, from the whatever, all of it ties into his character arc that he's going on. And they've done just such an incredible job with it. And truly, if they land the third film, I think it'll be the best superhero trilogy that's ever been made. So yeah, amazing film. But yeah, I really debated on putting that fourth or third. My third place goes to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Interesting.
Which was my favorite film of 2022. I watched it like 4 times in theaters and I've watched it like 3 times since. I've seen it so many times. And ever since I first watched it, just blew me away. Like, it helped having almost no expectations because like everybody was just kind of discovering it, and then it got a wider release in theaters and whatnot. It's just like it has every genre within it, but it works well in all of them. Like from an action perspective, from a romance perspective, from a comedy perspective, it fits every genre and does it very, very well. Genuinely think it's just like phenomenal movie.
I know what 2 and 1 are.
Yeah, I don't think you guys will be surprised by this. My number 2 is Oppenheimer.
No.
I think this might be Christopher Nolan's best movie, in my opinion. I think like he's about to win a lot of Oscars for it. Best director, editing, sound design. I think those are all things that he definitely should win. Just like incredibly crafted movie, and the performances amazing. Cillian Murphy, just absolute perfection in this role, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. We kind of watched it together the first time
So
that
good,
I saw it.
so good he fell asleep the first time he watched it.
Okay.
So good. Yeah, he likes it that much.
There are many circumstances that go into me falling asleep that first time, and you know that. But I went back and saw it in IMAX again after I got home from our trip. Yeah, just amazing movie. And then yeah, my number 1 is Dune Part 2. I truthfully do think this will sit kind of like a Lord of the Rings type of franchise, where like if they make Dune Messiah and it's up to this level, I will just be able to revisit these films and just turn them on and enjoy them no matter what. And I don't have that with a lot of franchises, but I truly think that's the case here. And to be able to confidently say that so early on is crazy to me. And yeah, like when I was making this list, I was kind of like, is it really number 1? But then I thought like, okay, if I had to rank it on my 2022 or 2023 list, where would it be? And it's like, it's going at the top. Like,
yeah,
truthfully, it is one of the best films that I have seen in the last few years. And I just think like as time goes on, it's just gonna stick with me.
Awesome. I am a fan of that list, Mr. Ben.
Respectable.
Now, my list, my turn, and I'm gonna build suspension for this list by going and using the restroom first. So I'll be right back, and then I'll hop into it. Give me 1 second.
No way.
But we're back. All right, my top 5 of the decade so far. I guess I think we're just gonna save Charley for the end because I'm very interested in hearing his. But as for me, kind of an odd kind of an odd list, all right? But, this is just personal preference, all right? So let's just keep that in mind. Um, Coming in at number 5 is Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Fantastic movie. I loved it. When we got back home from or when we got back to the Airbnb from the trip, I definitely did not illegally pull it up and watch it again. And then watch it again later on that week. It is genuinely an amazing biopic. I'm a sucker for a biopic. And this was a perfect a perfect person in history to explore. There's my brain rot showing. A perfect person in history to explore and to break down further. Again, a great cast of actors. I just think it's all around an almost perfect movie, and very deservingly so. Christopher Nolan is going to probably sweep this year, and I'm very excited to see it. I think there's a lot of great things about this film that I've probably talked about a lot already. So going into my number 4 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Again, beautiful movie. Could go down as the best superhero trilogy of all time, maybe one of the best trilogies of all time. Across the Spider-Verse has everything. Music. It has a beautiful core story. It has that amazing action. A great group of characters that you just want to see explored over and over and over. And I think once Beyond comes out, a lot of people will truly remember just how much of a masterpiece this movie is and just how visually pleasing it is, because all those things stand. Number 3, Babylon. I mean, come on. This movie was crafted for me. Everything that I want to see in a film.
Oh, wow.
It is in this movie. It is genuinely one of the most surprising movies I've ever seen. You never know where you're going to end up next. One second you're partying with all of these rich people, the next second you're literally in a tunnel where they are having crazy sex parties and people chained up for entertainment, and Tobey Maguire is the one leading you through this because he's a sex trafficking maniac. You have no idea where this movie is going to take you next. And for me, I just absolutely loved it. It's 3 hours long, but for me, it felt like an hour and a half. I just wanted more. I think there are a lot of amazing performances in here. There's an actor who is, basically the main character in the movie, and I forget his name, but he is Diego Calva. He plays Manny Torres. He is absolutely amazing in this film. And it's crazy because he is, like I said, kind of the main character in a movie that has Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, a whole plethora of amazing names. But yeah, Babylon is just one of those movies that just stuck with me for a long time. I need to revisit it. I had an absolute blast watching it. And so it is in my top 3 of the 2020s. I truly think it is an amazing, amazing film. Coming in at number 2, Everything Everywhere All at Once. This, again, is another one of those that just will not leave your mind. For a long, long time after viewing it, I cried, I laughed, I cried again, I cried again. I cried a lot during this movie because it's just that good. Very deservingly swept last year, did amazing at the Oscars. Just, again, another movie that I've talked about so many times. Maybe I'm getting that right.
Yeah.
It's just one of those that it'll stand the test of time, and other movies wish they could be as creative as this one. And number 1 is Dune Part Two. Genuinely one of my favorite movies of all time. It only got better after a second watch, and even then, I still haven't been able to stop thinking about it. We just talked about it for almost an hour and a half, and yeah, it's just one of those movies that just has it. It just has it all. There's, the moments that are huge and grand, like 3 sandworms popping up and destroying a whole army. There's, it has a very awesome core story of Paul Atreides and his revenge, and his fall from grace, his uprising, and his power high that he eventually gets on. But then there's also those moments where he's just sitting down with Chani talking about why he wants to do what he wants to do. And, Chani telling him how much she appreciates someone like him and how she'd always love him if he just promised to stay true to who he is, and he doesn't stay true to who he is. And it's just moments like that. You can have the dialogue between two characters literally just walking through a canyon or sitting on a dune, but you can also have those moments where a copter just blows up behind someone running to go into the graces of someone else, or someone riding a sandworm. This movie has everything in any type of sense of the word that makes a movie amazing, and even after being almost a week removed from it, I still struggle to fully explain just how good this is and why I do like it as much as I do. And who knows if it moves from this number one spot before the decade's over. I mean, it's just that good. And so that is my top 5 of the 2020s. Again, I haven't seen a lot, so relax, chill out on me. I know there's some indie movie from Ireland that came out in 2020 that I haven't seen that most people would whatever. I haven't seen it. All right. So these are movies I've seen that are my favorite. Oppenheimer, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Babylon, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Dune 2. I rest my case.
glorious little list, man. So now on to me.
Yes,
I'm in the same boat as Aiden. I haven't really seen too many things, as much as I would like to, I guess. But that's, I'm not trying to back myself out of this list. I'm still gonna get her done. At number 5, I have Taylor Swift's short film All Too Well.
In a way.
No, actually at number 5, I have John Wick 4. I very much I'm surprised this wasn't on Benjamin's list. I'm not gonna lie. John Wick 4 I thought was an incredible progression of the storyline. Honestly, after 4 films, I don't know how much you wonder what else they could really do, but they found a way to do more, and they racketed it up in every way possible. To the stakes, the choreography, which I know Ben loves to harken back to. Ben's a cinematography guy. I don't know, sorry, choreography guy. After the Guardians of the Galaxy podcast that we had, this man loves that stuff. But it was like there's so many beautiful shots, and like you can talk about like character development and stuff. There's probably not as a wide breadth of characters being developed here as there are in something like Oppenheimer or Dune, but for what is there, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean the new character additions, I forget the blind character's name, but I absolutely, yes, dude, like oh my god, he was just phenomenal in every way. Like he added the perfect dichotomy to John Wick's character in this, and they managed to still do unexpected things within it. It's truly wonderful. That leads me to number 4, which is Oppenheimer, Oppie boy. Watching. I don't know if it's. I don't want to say this because that would take away from how good the film actually is. But I was gonna say I don't know if it's just because we were all together watching for the first time. One of us snoozing. Yeah. I don't know if it was just the vibes. It was all there. And I talked a little bit about Dune being Dune 2 being a little bit slow for me. And interestingly enough, like Oppenheimer did have those as well. Obviously, like it's just a slower paced movie. That's just how it is. But it managed to still, at every single turn, I was fully invested and amazingly understanding for a large parts of what was happening and what was being discussed in the movie. I'm not always, I'm not a nuclear scientist, so I wouldn't understand, but certain things. But I mean, just everywhere from we've talked about the cinematography in Dune too. There's no slouch here in Oppenheimer as well. Like even the sound design in certain aspects of certain parts of the movie, like when after the nuke is dropped on Japan, and we have to see how Oppie is dealing with all of that, and we've yet to see the ramifications. Award wise for this movie. We'll see how that goes here. I believe is that this Sunday.
Oh,
the Oscars?
Wow, that's like that's soon, huh?
Yeah, this Sunday we'll see if Robert Downey Jr. takes that home. But on to my number three. Number three is what like it's all 1 through 3 has been a jumbled little thing for me this whole time listening to you guys you guys go. And I wonder how this is going to go over. Number 3 for me is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I as Aiden mentioned, lots of tears flowed with that movie. You know, it's a beautiful story. I had been eyeing the movie ever since the first trailer for it came out. Before there was any sort of buzz about the movie, like I was solely interested in it because it was a multiverse thing. And I just love that concept beyond. I know I'm a Marvel guy, but I love the concept of the multiverse no matter whatever film. It doesn't have to be superhero related. So when it was a multiverse thing, I was like, dude, this looks sick. I'm going to watch this. Come to find out, it's a deep story about a family and bagels and every stupid little thing in between. And they just managed to make you care about all of it, dude. And I'm hearing how many times Ben watched it alone. I didn't know that. That's crazy how many times he watched it. But that just speaks to how great this damn movie is. And which is why, like, I feel like if it's been like almost a year since I've seen it, why I feel like maybe that placement might move around after what I'm about to say now. Number 2 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah. I'm a Spider-Man geek. You guys know this. I love Spider-Man. I love every iteration of Spider-Man, whether it's Peter, whether it's Miles. And these movies have done a fantastic job, both Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, of pushing Miles to that forefront and pushing him up to that echelon that Peter is at. Still not quite there, but I mean, it's truly not far off. And like as Ben mentioned, with Beyond the Spider-Verse, like I can see this being like the greatest superhero trilogy of all time if they execute that perfectly. And I cannot wait to see that come to fruition. And I every aspect of this movie, I'm one of the people that say Across is better than Into, and I know I'm probably one of the minority that says that, but I mean, it's truthfully like everything down to the small little moments that they let you sit with, and not that Into the Spider-Verse doesn't have this, but the small moments of watching Miles talk to his mom, and his mom trying to hammer home the idea of like, if there's ever a place you end up and they try to tell you that you don't belong there, you need to show them why you do. And then that is harkened back in the movie later on when he has to fight for his life, essentially. Probably not for his life. They weren't going to kill him, but still he has to fight as hard as he can to prove that he's better than all these spider people and dodge them and get him away from where he needs to go so he can go save his dad. And it's, I don't know, man. And then you mix it with the way that the Gwen has to deal with what happened with her dad on her Earth. It's beautiful stuff. And granted, again, it could just be because I'm a big Spider-Man dweeb, but I do think that if maybe I rewatched Everything Everywhere All at Once again, it could easily take the number 2 spot. But as with the entirety of all of our lists, what comes back to number 1 is Dune Part 2. Entirely a shock to me because Part 1, I was very lukewarm on. I walked out of it not caring too much about. Like I gave it its flowers for the world building that they did in that movie. I still think to this day it's amazing. The sheer cast that they got together for that first one, insane, and it's still insane in Part 2. But this movie honestly stepped up part one for me. Like it made part one better for me. There's certain aspects looking back to Leto talking to, we talked about it earlier, with Leto telling Timmy, like, even if you're not all those things, like you're still my son. And that's what matters. And then we hear that echoed essentially with the Emperor telling Paul that his dad was a weak man and that's why he killed him. And those are the kind of things what Leto said to him in the first movie is what led to the Emperor deciding that this guy is a weak man, and him trying to save the people that were mining out there in the first movie when the sandworm was coming. And the Emperor sees him as a weak man for those kind of things, and that enhanced the first movie for me. But beyond talking about the first movie, I'm here to talk about the second one. Oh my God, man. We've gushed about it enough, I know, but I don't think we have at the same time because holy shit, dude. The cinematography alone, Greg Fraser is fucking phenomenal, dude. And that's why I almost wanted to put the Batman on this list as well as Ben did in his, because he does a fantastic job and Greg Fraser knows his fucking shit, man. It's absolutely bonkers. And I mentioned earlier the sound editing, every sound, anything in this movie is phenomenal. The sound editing, the sound design, the soundtrack, Hans Zimmer, we all know he's fucking fantastic, and he is in his bag for this one too. And truthfully, it is something to behold. And it took me, I mentioned it took me a second to really grasp how I felt about this movie, but I'm grateful for that, truthfully. Like a movie that like made me even want to, like, I'm not the type of guy that goes and finishes a movie and looks up, and meaning of what's hereditary ending explained. Like, I don't do that. And so I saw this article and I was like, you know what? I want to learn more. And I learned more, and holy shit, I'm so fucking glad I did. And so this movie is an all timer, and people can make all the comparisons they want about Empire Strikes Back and the Lord of the Rings and how I wasn't around for those, obviously, and I haven't even really fully given all of those a watch. But I can say that I was here for Dune, and to me, I am totally fine with that, and I am more than over the moon about that. So, yeah, my list is John Wick 4, Oppie at number 4, and John Wick 4 at 5, Oppie at number 4, Oppenheimer, excuse me, Everything Everywhere All at Once at 3, Across the Spider-Verse at 2, and Dune Part 2 at number 1.
Wow. Wonderful lists. I mean, it's really cool because I remember when Dune first came out, I knew nothing about it at all. And I heard a lot of people saying, oh, like, you know, this could be the next big thing. It could be the next Star Wars. And so I was like, all right, you know what? I'm bought in. That's all you need to tell me. Like, Denis Villeneuve and could be the next biggest franchise ever. I'm in. And to see it come this far after only 2 films, dude. Like, I think Ben was talking earlier about, I forgot who was talking earlier. I'm honestly forgetting what it even was about because I'm making the thumbnail. But I think it was something along the lines of Paul's character from the first movie to this, and you know how he was being the one that was having the voice used on him to now being the one to flip it on the Reverend Mother in that one scene. And you got, dude, that's just in the span of one movie. Like, you know, the fact that we're having this much character growth and these, you know, all of these storylines and all these paths that these characters are going on over the span of just one movie. I mean, it's actually insane to think about what Messiah is going to do for this trilogy. And so, yeah, man, I mean, I'm fully bought in, fully bought in.
Absolutely. I wanted to say something to Mr. Charley because you brought up John Wick 4. So I gave my 5. If I continued down, it would be Top Gun Maverick at 6 and John Wick 4 at 7. So
I haven't seen Maverick yet. I still.
Oh wow, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
That's definitely one you should check out.
Yeah, I need to watch because I haven't seen the first Top Gun either. So I need to watch.
I still haven't seen the first Top Gun.
Oh,
and
you don't even need honestly.
Okay, all right.
I think some people think it, like, you know, it helps your appreciation just setting up characters and some storylines, but they at least explain everything. So if you haven't seen the first, you're not missing any information for the second.
Okay.
My honorable mentions would also be the Batman and Past Lives.
Need to see Past Lives, bro. I need to.
Oh, dude, you will. I mean, at least I did. You will ugly cry.
I love to cry at movies, so I probably would.
Oh, bro, yeah.
My honorable mentions, I guess I would say, is the Batman as well. I don't know what my other one would be. Truthfully,
I thought you were gonna go Guardians. Honestly,
I mean, probably. Honestly,
But I
I
don't-
really liked Barbie though too. Truthfully,
oh, really? Yeah.
yeah.
I mean-
I look at it as a message of I look at like the end. I don't know if I've told you guys because I don't know if we talked about Barbie on like the pod or anything, but the end specifically where like we go through this whole movie of like how they hate the real world so much after realizing what it really is. But even despite after learning how miserable she thinks the real world could be, she still chooses to become a real person at the end, despite all of that, just because after seeing what like the great side of humanity, like watching a family go bowling is one of the visions she has. And I don't know if that's just uplifted by I think Billie Eilish's fucking fantastic song.
Yeah.
I think that's a great song.
Mhm.
But that whole scene was just fucking phenomenal to me, and that really like brought the whole movie home for me. But I mean, I say that, but then like Guardians 3 has like a lot of great, powerful moments like that, even with just Rocket alone. So might be Guardians 3.
And
Actually.
I mean, like Dune 1 is not like it's probably in my top 10 for the 2020s.
Oh, really?
I would say
Yeah.
so. Like, and just thinking about other things like Guardians 3, The Fablemans.
Oh yeah, you really liked Fablemans. I'm surprised
I
that wasn't
loved-
in your top 5.
I mean, yeah, it's just the difference between a 9 out of 10 and a 10 out of 10, I guess. But
Yeah, true.
but yeah, I do think Dune 1 would end up in the top 10, just like for my initial thoughts at least.
Yeah. Lots of great. I mean, we're only 4 years in, and to have a bag this deep of movies to pull from. And I mean, I know I see a lot of people talk about it's a Mads Mikkelsen movie. I'm not sure if
Another round.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of good things. I've heard a lot of good things about that one as well. So I've been meaning to get around to that one because I heard that's a really good 2020 movie. I think it's 2020, 2021.
Where would you guys put Dead Reckoning? Where would you put that? Mission Impossible.
Honestly, it'd probably be in the teens or 20s. No,
Really?
maybe.
I think it'd fall in the like 11 to 15 range.
Yeah.
Bro, you guys gave it 4.5 stars. Holy shiznit! I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of Dead Reckoning.
I mean,
I
no,
just
it's
think-
good. I like it. I'm not saying yeah.
I just think they showed their cards a little too early.
What about Hunger Games, Benji? Where'd you put that?
Oh Jesus!
The new Hunger Games?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that.
That
I don't know if I put it top
probably-
10, but
that would probably be like mid to high 20s if I had to just give an estimate. I think I'd have a lot of films from 2022 and 2023 above that one.
where's Ironclaw for you, Aiden?
Oh man, yeah, that's
Ironclaw freak.
I'd have to.
You haven't seen it, have you, Ben?
Well,
No,
you
I
know what?
didn't.
There's like even Ironclaw. I had even just past like this last year. I had Barbie, The Boy in the Heron, Creed 3, Poor Things, Guardians, John Wick, Godzilla, and The Holdovers in front of it, and that's just last year. So it was at 12 for my 2023 list. I mean, my 2022 RRR would definitely be in front of it. The Northman would be in front of it. Glass,
Oh,
maybe
man.
not Glass Onion, but yeah. So I don't know. Maybe in my like It depends. I mean, if I catch up a lot on 2021 and 2020 movies, then it'd probably be somewhere in the teens to 20s.
Dude.
But I mean, I think I have the Holdovers as my fourth favorite movie last year. And so, I mean, the Holdovers would even hold a top 10 spot because I sobbed like a baby to that movie. Big time. Have you seen that one yet, Charlie?
What's the Holdovers?
Yeah.
No, not yet. I want to. I love Paul Giamatti. Jesus.
Man, if you want to cry, watch that movie. Oh man,
Okay.
I watched it with Brandon and his wife and my girlfriend. Man, I literally had to like shove my face in a pillow. I was like, no one look at me, bro. I'm just going through it. It's a great movie.
I don't know, because like when I watched The Whale, I cried a ton. But like looking back, like I didn't love the movie, but like it was so like there's lots of moments that are like you feel really bad and like but also like no, I was gonna say profound, but that's not the right word. I don't know. I don't know. It's I don't know like what I was feeling in that moment watching it in the theater versus like how I felt like almost like a week after I was done seeing it. You know.
You were kind of like, man, why'd I do that?
Yeah. What touched me so bad? Like, I was like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about that movie, the more I'm like, what was it?
Yeah.
What was it?
Like, I guess it's like Brendan Fraser, like he's good. Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, what? Not I almost said Sydney Sweeney. What's her name? It's not Sydney Sweeney.
Sadie Sink.
Sadie Sink. Yes. Her like, what was the deal with it? Like her character was like, oh my god, bro.
Yeah.
It was like she was just fucking horrific. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, lots of. I mean, we just named off some amazing movies, but there have been some duds. So
Past Lives is probably the next one I'm going to check out, and then it'll be Top
yeah.
Gun Maverick, I think.
Past Lives, yeah, I like Past Lives a lot. It was one of those, nice.
What was the one from? What was the one from? Or no, Past Lives was last year. What wasn't there one? What was? Did you watch Aiden? Reason to Leave?
Oh, Decision to Leave.
That
is actually in my top 10. But I don't know if I truly stand by that. I think because I made this list almost a year ago, and so I was just throwing movies in there. Decision to Leave is in my current 10 favorites of the 2020s. I mean, it is a really good movie. I do like the I love the plot of it, and I think it is like one of the most. It is a gorgeous movie. Like if you just want to be taken back by just pure cinematography, that's the one to watch. That one is really profound, but I don't know. It's not anything too crazy, but again, I'd have to rewatch it. I think it's still worth the watch for sure.
I think it's a little overrated.
Yeah, that I think I was again. It's one of those things like how you felt about The Whale is how I felt about Decision to Leave. I think I just wanted to justify driving 45 minutes out to go watch it. So I was like, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. It is a really good movie, but might be slightly overrated by me for sure. But
I have a question for you guys because we are in March, which is like a really big release month for movies, whether they will be good or bad. Big releases like
Kung Fu Panda loser. What?
Okay. That's crazy. So Dune already came out in March, and then yes, Kung Fu Panda is about to come out, and yes, I'm going to watch it on Friday. And then we also have the new Ghostbusters and Godzilla X Kong. Listen.
What he said about Ghostbusters? Yep.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
So my question for you guys is, are we covering any of those on the podcast? And if not, what else are we talking about?
All right. So
Invincible starting again soon.
We got Invincible coming up. I really want to get back in here by
X-Men starting
next
soon.
week. So well, we got Kung Fu Panda this week, you said? I'm down. I would be down to get in for, Kung Fu Panda. We could even catch up on some news. I would really like to be back in here next week. For sure. I think Madam Web was just one of those where after I watched it, I just had to take a step back and be like, what is I needed a week to recover and be like, what is life? So that's why we missed last week, because it was just like, I need to recover. And then Dune 2 came out and I was like, okay, this is why we do it. This is why we love the game. And we hop back in. So I'm fine with, Kung Fu Panda. There's a lot of cool stuff I want to cover. Furiosa, oh my effing G, bro. When I was in the theater and I saw that trailer in IMAX, bro, that is one of the coolest trailers I have ever seen. I don't know if
I
it played
loved
for
seeing
y'all.
that trailer in IMAX. Like when watching it, like in IMAX, like the trailer was just so good.
I still haven't seen Mad Max, so I don't care.
I think this is just like something completely separate in the same like universe.
I still don't care.
I'm so bought in, bro. I'm so bought into that
Fury
movie.
Road is so overrated.
Oh,
Anyways.
really? I feel like that'd be up Ben's alley. Truthfully, I thought Ben was about to say he loves that movie.
I mean, I really like it. I think it's really good. But like the people who have it like 10 out of 10, one of the best action movies of all time, I'm like, really? I don't see it.
Interesting.
Respect.
I mean, yeah, I'm down to get back in here for a Kung Fu Panda or whatever it might be. I mean, we can cover news. I mean, I'm sure we'll chop something up and workshop it as the week goes on.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll tell Poe to go fuck himself because fuck Kung Fu Panda. I'm just kidding. I need to rewatch them and before I go see 4.
Yeah.
But honestly, bro, I'm not gonna lie. All these early reviews turning me off.
Oh, really?
No one is more upset than me. Like, come on.
I haven't seen any early reviews.
Did you say in your YouTube video that it's gonna be bad, or what did you say, Ben? I don't remember.
I said, I always do this in my YouTube videos, and then people still get pissed at me in the comments. I say, like, here's why it should be good. Here's why it could be bad. Let's hope they don't mess it up because they shouldn't. And I always go for both sides. So literally the title was like Kung Fu Panda 4 should be amazing based on like all of the factors that go into it. So the fact that it's potentially not, is I think a little silly. How dare they?
Well, I'm in for Godzilla. We also have see how much you guys care. What's it called? The Secret Society of Magical Negroes. That one's coming up soon. I'm gonna be there for that. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, Charlie, sure. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I can't wait for Ben's spicy TikTok take like he had on the Blackening or whatever it was.
Oh, that was rough.
That's so rough. Funny. I remember that.
Yeah. I do think that if we're going to cover the new episodes of Invincible, that we should cover like the first half of season 2, like before then, because we didn't do it back in like October or November or whatever. Because how soon is that?
March 14th.
That's in a week?
Yes, sir.
We could even pop in next week for it and just kind of be like, and kind of pop in to do a quick Invincible episode before the new season comes out.
Wow.
I would mess with that heavy, sir. I would rock with that heavy. I can't think of anything else. I don't know.
Thank goodness. Oh my god.
Thank goodness. I am more than down for that. I am.
I'm all over that, G.
Oh, brother. It's 1 a.m. for us. His white side's pouring in.
Listen, it's 11 o'clock for me. Okay, you guys live in the shit zone.
Yeah.
Okay, don't talk to me.
Yeah, we need to get Ben up out of here so he can be well rested for tomorrow. And without further ado, that is our episode on Dune 2, our top 5 movies of the 2020s. We will be back next week. I'm holding y'all accountable. We'll be back next week with something. Invincible, Kung Fu Panda, some news, whatever it may be, we will be here. That is Words from the Nerds Podcast, episode 55. Thank you for listening. Check out all of our old stuff if you would like. I got dogs barking, so peace.
May thy knife chip and shatter.
Sayonara.